Hello everybody, it's Tarun. Welcome to your 10th tutorial in the CSS for presentation course. In this tutorial, I'll start with pseudo element selectors. Okay, so without wasting time, let's start. The pseudo classes are not only the only kind of pseudo selectors. There are also 4 pseudo elements that act as though they are inserting fictional elements into the document structure. In CSS3, the pseudo elements are indicated by a double colon symbol. But for better backward compatibility, use a single colon as they were defined in CSS2. So now let's see the first two pseudo elements, which is first letter and first line. The following pseudo elements which I am going to show you are used to select the first line or first letter of text in an element as displayed in the browser. So now let's first see the first line pseudo element. This selector applies a style rule to the first line of the specified element, and this property you can apply to limited elements which are color, font, background, word spacing, letter spacing, text decoration, line height, and vertical align text transform. So now let's see the first letter. This applies the style rule to the first letter of the specified element. The properties you can apply are limited to color, font, text decoration, text transform, vertical align, padding, background, margin, border, float, letter spacing, and word spacing. So I'll just show you one example of these two pseudo elements, how they change the text. So you can see here for the first line I have given a letter spacing of 8 pixels. So you can see here it has given the letter spacing of 8 pixels for the first line, and in the first letter I have increased the font size to 300% and changed the color to orange. Okay, so this was the two pseudo element selectors. So now let's see the remaining two pseudo element selectors, which are before and after. CSS2 introduced before and after pseudo elements. Okay, before and after. I'll just before and after. Okay, and these elements are used to insert content before or after a specified element without actually adding the characters to the source document. Okay, and this is called generated content in CSS. Generated content can be used to insert language appropriate quotation marks around the code, insert automatic counters, or even display URLs next to links when a document is printed. So I'll just show you one example, and I'll just okay, this is the example where the style sheet is. I have added this is my markup. First of all, see the markup. I have a paragraph. Snow White was banished from being the most beautiful and they live happily ever after, etc, etc. Okay, and I have added before once upon a time font weight is bold and color is purple, and after I have added the end. So I'll just show it you in the browser only. So let's copy it here in the style. Okay, and I am just now going to use this paragraphs only. Okay, so now let's see what happens when I run it in the browser. So you can see here that it has added once upon a time to every paragraph and the end to after every paragraph. Okay, so generated content is not supported in Internet Explorer 6 and 7, but other browsers handle it just fine, and there is not something you are likely to take on in your first projects. But if you are interested in learning more, then I'll recommend that you go to the W3 organization contents. There you will find it more to learn there. Okay, so now let's move forward to the next topic, which is attribute selectors. So the last type of selector target elements are based on their attributes. You can target attribute names or target their values, which provides a lot of flexibility for selecting elements without needing to add a lot of class and ID markup. The following attribute selectors, which I'm going to tell you, are introduced in CSS2, and they are well supported in browsers with the exception of IE6. Okay, so let's start with the first attribute. So this is the simple attribute selector targets the elements with a particular attribute regardless of its value. So there is I have just shown you example also. So the image is the element and title is the attribute, and for this attribute you have defined the property border 3 pixels solid. The next attribute selector is attribute equals to exact value. So the exact attribute value selector selects element with a specific value for the attribute. In Internet Explorer 7, the values are case sensitive and must be entered correctly in order to be recognized. So I'll just show you one example. Here the example, I have just selected the element as image, and the attribute is title, and if your title is first grade, then it will make the border 3 pixels solid. The next attribute selector is attribute equals to value, partial value. The partial attribute selector allows you to specify one part of an attribute value. So this example here, it looks for the word grade in the title. So the images with the title value, let's say first grade, second grade, etc., would be selected, and they'll be given border 3 pixels solid. And here the symbol is tilde, which is there on the above of tab key. Okay. The next attribute selector is element attribute hyphen separated value. So this hyphen separated value selector targets hyphen separated values. This selector matches any link that points to a document written in variation on the English language, EN, and whether the attribute is EN US, which is American English, EN IN, which is Indian English, or EN AUTAS, which is Australian English, and so on. So okay, and there are 3 more attribute selectors which are there in CSS3. So I'll just tell you them also. This one is the beginning substring attribute value selector. So it matches the elements whose specified attribute values start in the string of characters in the selector, and this selector applies the style only to all images that are found here in the images icons. The next one is ending substring attribute value selector. It matches the elements whose specified attribute values end in the string of characters in the selector. In this example, we have applied a style to just the anchor elements that link to PDF files. And the last one of the attribute selector is arbitrary substring attribute value selector. It looks for the provided text string in any part of the attribute value specified. And in this example, this rule selects any image that contains the word February somewhere in its title. So now we are done with the selectors, and now we will move forward to the next topic, which is background images. We have seen how to add images to the content of the document using the IMG element, but these days most decorative images are added to the page and elements as backgrounds using CSS. And after all, decorations such as tiling background patterns are firmly part of presentation and not structure. It also allows designers to change the look of a site by editing a .css file. And we have come a long way from the days when sites were giant graphics which were cut up and held together with tables. So in this section we'll look at the collection of properties used to place and push around background images. And starting with the basic background image property, but I'll just tell you what the properties which we'll cover in this topic. We'll cover these 7 properties, which is background image, background repeat, background position, background attachment, background clip, and background size as for CSS3, and last one is background. So now let's start with the background image property. It adds a background to the image, background image to any element. Its primary job is to provide the location of the image file. So I'll just tell you the values of this property first. Okay, so the values are URL, which is location of image, and none or inherit. The default value is none, and it can be applied to all the elements, and it do not inherit. So the value of background image is a sort of URL holder that contains the location of the image, and the URL is relative to wherever the CSS rule is at the time. If the rule is in an embedded style sheet, a style element in the HTML document, okay, then the path name in the URL should be relative to the location of the HTML file. If the CSS rule is an external style sheet, then the path name of the image should be relative to the location of the .css file. Okay, so the next example which I am going to show you applies the background image to a whole body and a single element with padding and a border applied. Okay, I have added a background image py.jpg, and I have added background image to paragraphs best.jpg, and with padding 2 em and border 4 pixel dash. So let's save it and see what happens in the browser. Okay, so now you can see that the background image is the pie image, which is the image of a tree, and the image in the background of paragraphs is the best image, which is the fish image. So you can see the default behavior of the background image. The image starts at the top left hand corner and tiles horizontally and vertically until the center element is filled. But like background colors, by default tiling background images fill the area behind the content area, and the extra padding space around the content and extend to outer edge of the border if there is one. So if you provide both a background color and a background image to an element, the image will be placed on the top of the color. In fact, it is recommended that you do provide a backup color that is similar in the event images fail to download. Okay, so now let's see how we can control our tiling directions. So as we saw in the last example, images tile left and right, up and down. So you can limit this behavior with the background repeat property. So I'll just show you the values of that property first. Okay, the values are repeat, repeat X, repeat Y, no repeat, and inherit. The default value is repeat, and it applies to all the elements, and it do not inherit. So if you want the background image to appear just once, then you should use the no repeat keyword value like this. Okay, I'll just show you the example. Okay, you should use the background repeat and its value as no repeat. You can also restrict the image to tiling only horizontally, which is repeat X, or vertically, which is repeat Y. So I'll just show you the example of those also. Okay, so what it will do, it will, whenever you are making a background image and it is a small image and it is repeating in the browser window. And if you have used repeat X, then it will repeat only in the X direction. Okay, and if you have used repeat Y, then it will repeat in the Y direction only. So this is all from my side in this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'll start with background position. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial.